My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Well, in today's Gospel, Jesus is outspoken in the correction that he gives to the religious and political leaders of the Jews, as he tells them, "Alas for you, because you build tombs for the prophets, the people your ancestors killed. In this way, you both witness to what your ancestors did and you approve it. They did the killing, but you do the building." That correction became the cause of conflict between Jesus and the religious authorities at that time. But Jesus had to correct them to make them realize their hypocrisy, although the correction aroused in them negative emotions. Now, in our age, people may also be sensitive to correction. Like, I don't know how you feel when you're being corrected. Do you feel resentful or angry? Or do you question whether the one correcting you has the right to do so? The situation that we're reflecting on in today's Gospel can teach us how to give correction and also how to receive correction. This may sound like bad news that we have to correct each other's faults, but it's actually part of the good news. Because Jesus is counting on each of us to help one another, to encourage one another when we're doing well, and to help one another with constructive correction when we are heading down dead ends. Look at Jesus today, correcting those religious leaders in order to give them a wake-up call. He's not correcting like the chronic nagger, or someone with a holier-than-thou attitude who tries to tear the others down in order to build himself up. No, the example of Jesus is helpful for us when we have to correct the others, especially in a world that considers that the most important thing in life is to be nice. That's why some say that you really should not correct anyone else, because that would make you seem judgmental or harsh. And that what is more important is to be nice. Well, there's nothing wrong with being nice, but we can't use niceness in order to excuse ourselves from giving any constructive criticism to those who need it. Again, here we see your example, Lord, in this regard. Like your straight talk with the scribes and the Pharisees, whom you sometimes called hypocrites or whitewashed tombs or brood of vipers. At times, we also have to have the courage to risk being considered not a nice person if someone needs our help. Giving helpful correction to anyone who needs it, which is not something that we may or we may not do, depending upon whether we feel like it. It's not some kind of a Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda situation. It's an obligation of charity. Because Jesus calls us to love our neighbors, and sometimes love requires correcting. If we feel responsible for preventing someone from harming himself physically, then all the more we should feel responsible for preventing him from hurting himself spiritually. So I thank you, Jesus, for showing us in your correction in today's Gospel that giving a correction is not about winning an argument, but it's about winning a brother or a sister. The point is not that one is right and the other is wrong, but that both win by being brought into greater loving communion with one another and with Jesus. That's why in another place in the Gospel, Jesus said that in making a correction, we should go to our brother or sister in private to have a serene one-on-one exchange of feedbacks. And this Gospel, the flip side of this Gospel, the flip side of this teaching is that when someone corrects us, we should be thankful even if the person might be slightly off the mark. It shows us that that person cares enough about us to try to help us become better. And that is where we discover who our real friends are. The ones who love us, that they'll risk their friendship with us to try to give us the help that we need. Because our real friends are not those who flatter us or those who continue to enable us to do the wrong things. Our real friends are those who tell us out of sincere concern that we're heading down the wrong track. So, Jesus, may we see in those people who correct us, those who patiently journey with us into becoming the person that you call us to be, may we see you in them. I think this is made clear from the story that I want to share with you about a school teacher, a religious sister, who shares a testimony of the lasting impact of a loving correction. She was handling a class of 34 grade schoolers who were all dear to her, but her student, called Mark, was one in a million. Very neat in appearance, with a happy to be alive attitude that made even his occasional mischievousness delightful. But Mark also talked a lot, that she had to remind him again and again that talking without permission was unacceptable. But what impressed her so much, though, was his sincere response every time she had to correct him for misbehaving, when he would say, "Thank you, sister, for correcting me." And one morning, her patience was growing thin, and she had to tell Mark, "If you say one more word, I'm going to tape your mouth shut." And it wasn't 10 seconds later when he was talking again. Since sister had stated the punishment in front of the class, of course she had to act on it. She tore off 2 pieces of masking tape and made a big X with them over the mouth of Mark. And then she returned to the front of the classroom. As she glanced at Mark to see how he was doing, he winked at sister. And that did it. Sister started laughing, and the class cheered as she walked back to Mark's desk to remove the tape, and she just shrugged her shoulders. And you know what Mark's first words were? Signature Mark, which was, "Thank you, sister, for correcting me." Sister would go on teaching Mark again in high school, and at that time Mark wasn't as talkative as he was when he was in grade school. But he and the other boys were nonetheless mischievous and often were in need of correction. Then you fast forward to some years later, and sister was informed that Mark was killed in Vietnam, and she was asked by his family to speak at his funeral. And she was surprised, but she was more than willing to go and to share what she remembered of that mischievous little boy. And there she learned that this young man, whom she had not seen in many years, had often spoken of her and their time together in grade school and high school. That she had left a loving impression on him. In fact, they found in his pocket upon his death a memento of his high school days with her. An assignment from 9th grade listing all his positive attributes. So sister said, all I could think at that moment was, "Mark, I would give all the masking tape in the world if only you would talk to me." But of course, Mark was talking to her. Because the memento in the pocket of this mischievous young boy, who grew up to be a responsible and patriotic hero, spoke volumes. "Thank you, sister, for correcting me." And because a well-intentioned correction will have lasting influence on those who are wise enough to embrace it. We turn to our Mother Mary, the seat of wisdom. We ask her for that wisdom, that discernment, to be able to accept corrections as help extended to us, and also to know how to package our correction when we have to give it. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.